have to remember that being in Dubai is like being on the racetrack itself. It's hard to slow down because you see all the cars whizzing by. You see other people going after their dreams, blowing up on social media, making sales, developing their wealth. And you could see it and sit still, but most people will not. 1 to 2 hours of social media is more than enough. Once you hit more than 2 hours of social media use, that level of consumption correlates with higher rates of depression, anxiety, and other disorders. So we are at a time right now where AI is developing. And if you feel that you don't understand how your mind works, you are very vulnerable to being manipulated. When you live in Dubai, you feel like the sky is the limit because everything has been, everything around you is wonder. Like you look at, it gives you wonder. Everything around us we see is just beautiful. It's top quality. It raises your standards. It shows you what is possible.
Do you feel there is a lot of lonely people here in Dubai?
Yeah, that's...
All right, we're here with another podcast with Dubai Catch, and it seems we have a wonderful guest. She's a therapist. Her name is Sara El Nabulsi. I always start the podcast with the person introducing themselves because who knows more than the person themselves?
It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Sara El Nabulsi. I'm a clinical psychologist. I work with adults. I've been a clinical psychologist for about 15 years. Before that, I was an interior designer. And before that, I was interested in other things as well.
Interesting. So from interior designer, you became a therapist.
Yes.
That's a story that we should know about. I always want to say, what inspired you actually to become a therapist?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really good question. I think growing up in Lebanon, I faced a lot of challenges very early on. So, we had the war going on and the parents are just mainly occupied in keeping us alive. So we had like months off school and it was like complete chaos. And at the same time, this chaos really, you had to be resilient to survive in this environment. You can't just coast through your adolescence. You had to become and learn ways to cope and good ways to cope. Alhamdulillah, other people cope in more negative ways, like maybe they get into some problems. So my journey of self-development and healing started from a very, very young age. And I would say officially became my full interest when I was 16. So by the time I was like in my 20s, I was already very experienced on how to help people navigate things. But at the time, the university didn't even have a psychology major. It was a minor. So I took that minor and I did, what the reasonable thing to do, which was become a designer. My uncle is a very famous, well-known designer in the region.
Really? What's his name?
Nabil Dada.
Nabil.
He worked with the huge projects with the Hariri family and all of that, and the governments, and so I loved what I learned. I love the process. Art is part of me. And I think what's more interesting here is that I don't believe that human beings need to fit in one category. I think it's really, strange for me when I see that we believe that we need to be one thing. Right? Because if you look back in the day, thousands of years ago, the philosopher was also an astronomer. He was also a great connoisseur of, poetry. It was the human being has so much potential. So this is kind of what happened. I found my passion later on in life and things aligned, alhamdulillah, and I just went for it.
You said that you were minoring in psychology. Were you studying interior design during that time?
Yeah.
Interesting. And how many years until then you figured out, like, I need to transition now from interior design to psychology?
Yeah, I mean, I transitioned into psychology properly in my mid-30s. I had already been working and, doing really well. And I took a year off and I went on a retreat, a meditation retreat.
Interesting.
I was in the middle of nowhere. It's like a university specialized in ancient wisdoms that we call Vedic sciences. And these Vedic sciences are basically, this master program was a study in, in Ayurveda, in meditation, in yoga, in aligning architecture with natural laws. So what you might understand as Feng Shui. You've heard of Feng Shui before?
Yes.
Yeah, it's basically the art and science of decorating your space so that energetically it's a nice space. So that also exists in the Veda. So basically, I got this master's for my own self in basically all those alternative ways of healing. And when I finished that program, I knew I didn't want to come back and into design. I wanted to take the next step. It was definitely a difficult thing to do, like to change careers in your mid-30s requires jumping into the unknown, obviously like having no income for a while. And it was very scary, but I've done that many times before. So I did that. And then I went to Concordia where I did my psychology studies and I came back here. So that's kind of how
it's interesting that you mentioned that you've changed your career 30-year-old. A lot of people that I know, they usually get stuck with their career for the rest of their lives. Yeah. So if they were working as an engineer, they'll just work as an engineer for the next 25 years. As a lawyer, they're fixed as being a lawyer. And it's a very risky situation where you have to major transition from one career path to another. What gave you that bravery or that confidence that you will succeed where someone else feel that will fail?
That's a really good question. I would say I went through a lot of experiences that made me have to rely on myself and my inner life in order to face my challenges. So growing up in the war, like we said, facing a lot of difficulties in my life, I kind of exercised this ability and skill of relying on myself. So I trust myself. I trust my decision. I trust my process of thinking. And so I knew that I'll make it work.
What are the challenges that exist today in Lebanon that we can be thankful here in Dubai?
Okay, I wouldn't know about the challenges that exist in Lebanon right now because I've been here since 2008.
Okay.
On and off a little bit. I traveled, obviously, for my studying and a few other things, and I came back. But yeah, I mean, being in Dubai, we do have so many incredible things to be grateful for. As a single woman, I'm mostly grateful for the security I feel. I feel that this is a country rooted in morality. And the way that it's run, I feel safe to go and ask for help if I have any issue. Call the police, they care. If I have a problem on the road, they care. So I kind of feel like I'm home. You know,
So you
I'm
feel
not
safe.
like I feel very, very safe because of the culture here, the Arabic culture.
It's not the same in Lebanon?
It is the same in Lebanon, but Lebanon has different challenges at the moment. There's too much chaos. There's too much lack of order. And then the other thing about being in Dubai is just how comfortable it is and how convenient and how everything, I set up my institution. I have a institution now where I give online courses and services. I set it up almost entirely online. It took me zero time. And so that kind of growth and developing your business at the pace that you can do it here and the convenience of it is just another level, to be honest.
You talked about an interesting thing about the pace of the city of Dubai. Now, Dubai in itself is very fast. The time runs here like so quick, more than anywhere else that I know. But there's a thing that you, as a therapist, you might know that there's stress and burnout that are common within this area. So what would you give like a strategy if someone is facing stress, burnout with the fast pace and they just can't get to catch up with what is going on in the world?
Yeah. That's a very, that's something I encounter like 99% of the time in the clinic, right? One thing I tell my clients about this is when you are in Dubai, you have to understand that you're in the racetrack. In the racetrack. So Dubai is a very fast-moving place. And this has a lot of advantages, right? Like, because then you can really speed through all of the stages in your career development. There are no obstacles. Your ambition here is like unleashed. And people nurture that, and people give opportunities for young people for new ideas. So this place is just, it has no limits, right? At the same time, when it comes to your mental health, I tell my clients, you have to remember that being in Dubai is like being on the racetrack itself. It's hard to slow down because you see all the cars whizzing by. You see other people going after their dreams, blowing up on social media, making sales, developing their wealth. And you could see it and sit still, but most people will not. Most people will see that and they want the same.
They'll get inspired.
They'll get inspired and they'll feel like, I want to do that. And so either they take action and get on that same wheel and start taking action and go at that same pace, or some people might sit back and feel resentful and feel stressed
But don't
out.
you think with the hustle culture that is coming up that everyone should work 24/7, being a hustler, working for the best, type of efficiency, productivity, I want to maximize everything that I have in life. Doesn't that create type of stress on themselves to just continue to perform?
It absolutely does. And this is why I use this analogy. I use this analogy to say that when you are here, you have to kind of make a very conscious effort in your resting time. It's not enough to finish work and just plot down in front of the couch, on the couch in front of the TV. That will not rest you up in the same way that it would if you were in another place because of the high intensity days. Let's take the physiology, for example, okay? The level of stress that you experience throughout your day in Dubai really is high. Now, being here for so long, we get used to it, okay? It's like if you're an athlete, let's say you're an Olympian, okay? Your day, your training is by definition quite intense, right? And so you cannot just rest by sitting at home or sleeping. It will not be enough, right? Just like with athletes and Olympians, in order for them to rest, they do cryo, they do light therapy, they do other things, they're with their psychologist, they break down a plan of recovery that will help keep their performance at the same level and push it further. Isn't that right?
It's interesting that you mentioned that. So for the average worker here in Dubai, what would be some sort of techniques that you would propose for them to reduce their stress level?
Yeah, many things. I mean, could you tell me more about this average person you have in mind?
He's a person that works from 9 to 5 every day, Monday to Friday, and then comes back home, has nothing to do after that. But he's stressed out from that 9 to 5 throughout every day.
Yeah, I think for me, it's hard to have like a cookie cutter answer for a question like this because it generalizes. But let's say we have two different types of people, the two extremes. The person who is working their 9 to 5 and they're completely satisfied in it. Okay, and they don't have plans to do anything else. Their priorities lie in spending quality time with their family or whatever for whatever reason. So they want to keep that routine and they're not looking to do anything. They're happy with that routine. And you have on the other extreme, the person who is doing that as a stepping stone to build their financial freedom, right? To become completely free and to be able to have and own all of their time. These two extremes. So, of course, most people will fall somewhere in the middle. So if someone is very happy with their situation as it is, then fantastic. Then for them, I would say that, things like, make sure that like the pillars of your mental health are there. So, since you are kind of having this very structured routine that centers around work, you need to then invest more like time with your physical health, right? Because if they're just sitting on the desk all the time and all of that. And then you need to invest in your brain development because we can never be happy, I believe, as human beings if our brain is doing routine work, right? We need to always be learning. We need to be exposed to new information. That's what allows the neurons in our brain to expand and reach and connect. And if we don't have that, we have dullness, okay? And human nature, for everybody, we don't like dullness. right? So this is the kind of thing I would say here, that, make sure you're taking care of your physical health, being active and all of that. Learn new things with any topic, since, you have the time to do that. And then, of course, make sure that the quality time you spend with your family is truly quality time, not like, because quality time, doing adventures, going on hikes, exploring the beautiful UAE is something that, is very easy to do and is very safe to do. So if they do that while they're spending time with their family, it benefits everyone involved. Does that make
So you
sense?
believe that quality time should be more about doing activities together outside of home, or can it actually be done at home as well?
Um, hmm. To be honest with you, I do face a lot of clients that they spend a lot of time together,
Mm.
but it's not quality time at all, because it's almost like the modern lifestyle with our phones and, less ability to connect as human beings has kind of created a routine that's not very conducive to good conversation and proper connecting on a emotional, psychological level. So people end up sitting together, but it's not really quality time. And we see that a lot of the adolescents and young adults, most of the time they want to leave home because there's nothing happening there, right? So I think that if I'm talking about clients that I see here, I would say doing things together, going out, exploring new things together.
A lot of people that I know, or for example, me as a person, when I go outside and I go explore places, I sit down at a restaurant that I find is beautiful, and I see people, families, despite that they're outside, they're there sitting on their phone.
Yeah.
They're not even communicating with each other. The mother is looking at their phone, the kid is looking in the iPad, the father is looking at his phone as well.
Yeah.
What type of maybe psychological effects this will have on the family relationship? That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, that is definitely, we see that a lot, don't we? Well, the thing is that, our ability to connect with other people is a skill that develops at a young age. So if we're not really very kind of mindful of that with the kids, then they grow up without developing those skills. We learn a lot through connection, right? We learn how to make friends, how to have proper conversation, how to be, pleasant with other people, how to have empathy, how to think of something other than ourselves. We learn all these like very complex social things and constructs growing up. And if people growing up or kids growing up are not mindful of that, then they miss out. And then that forms a very difficult level to build healthy and fun and happy relationships on as adults, right? So social media use is something I definitely recommend cutting back on for the parents, like really monitoring it in fact, I was on a TV interview just 2 days ago, and we were talking about this, and I was kind of updating my knowledge about the research on this. 1 to 2 hours of social media is more than enough. Once you hit more than 2 hours of social media use, that's when that level of consumption correlates with higher rates of depression, anxiety, and other disorders.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
depression increases the more hours you use social media.
Yeah, the studies are obviously correlational because, ethically you can't force people to use social media more and then measure how depressed you make them to be, right? So it's they just correlate it. They take groups of people, they see how much these people use the internet or use social media, and then they measure their psychopathology.
What's the reason for that?
I would say a very strong factor here would be loneliness. Yeah, because as human beings, we have a very strong need for connection that we don't get in our day-to-day life anymore because everybody is busy on their phone. Everybody is too focused on work and have other issues, right? So I would say that for me, if I analyze things, I would say we would not be using social media as much if we had more connection in our life.
Do you feel there is a lot of lonely people here in Dubai?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Actually, can I tell you something? Huge percentage of the clients I see in the clinic, everybody is struggling with that thing. It's underlying. It's one of the causation or the factors that cause a lot of the distress that we have.
You feel it's like a common trend that is existing right now.
Yeah.
But what's the reason that there is an increase in loneliness? Exactly. What's causing people to be more lonely, despite that we're living in a city with over 200 nationalities, and there's a huge population living in that small place?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't feel like a place you can be lonely if compared to being in a village or being in a far off in the mountains. So why is this happening?
I'd like to argue that if you live in a village, you would not be lonely at all.
Really?
Yes, because you would be wanting to connect with other people because, they make part of your day. Not much is happening. You need to know the details and like whose son did what and all of these things. It becomes essential for you if you live in a village, right? Because we have a need for stimulation. And if we live in a very quiet environment, then we don't have that stimulation. So we seek it from other people. So the reason why I think there's a big struggle with loneliness here that I see myself in Dubai, and I haven't lived in other Emirates, by the way, so I can't generalize, is because a couple of things. Dubai tends to attract ambitious people, right? Ambitious people, by definition, they are focused on their growth. So they will not have a huge part of their time available for random kind of non-productive time, right? So that's one point.
So they view like social activities as something of a waste of time.
Potentially, especially if, but there's a solution to that, which is kind of creating situations where these ambitious people can be together, learn from each other, grow their business, and connect as well.
Communities,
yes. Exactly. Having more communities, exactly.
What kind of other common trends that you find out other than loneliness here in Dubai when it comes to mental health?
So when it comes to mental health, the research that I found was that rates of anxiety and depression are quite high in the GCC as a whole. So the rates of anxiety and depression disorder are quite high in the GCC as a whole. And so UAE would not be any different.
I see.
And
you mentioned that the depression and anxiety, with this increased use of social media, with people aspiring that they want to be something that they're not. And because they're inspiring for something that may seem unattainable, they feel depressed. That why am I living in this situation when the others are living maybe an illusion of what seems to be a luxurious lifestyle. A lot of people go through social media to pretend something they're not. They might show kind of like the happiest moments of their lives through social media, but you never know exactly what's happening behind the scenes. It's always that we hear about the situation, like you hear about beautiful couples in social media. They look like the happiest couple in the world. But then you find out that they get divorced. There was problems, there was anxiety, there was depression, there was so many things going behind them. Why do we like to show this type of illusion in social media? Why do people, like in terms of psychological ways, people want to show the best things only on social media and not the true hardships that they face?
Yeah. I would say that yes, I agree with you. A lot of the accounts would demonstrate this, or a lot of the social media accounts and certain individuals would show that image. I don't think that people connect with that as much anymore. Yeah. I feel like there's a wave of people just being authentic as well and talking about their own lives and kind of being more real. And I feel like those accounts also have a lot of appeal, and people are following them because Absolutely, I agree with you. Having that perfected image and polished image does have an impact. If you're like browsing through your social media and that's all you see, it does create a cognitive kind of reevaluation in you, because like we are constantly comparing ourselves with other people. It's like a built-in mechanism, right? So if that's happening, then yeah. But then it depends on what accounts you follow, by the way, because a lot of accounts, like for me that I follow, I don't have any of that. I've recently started following a lot of horse activities, like people like doing, like there's this vet in Egypt. He's a very natural person, and he talks about, all the different cases of horses that he gets, and he goes to see the horses and plays with them and talks about how you can raise them well, draws parallel with human beings and our lives. I love it. So now I get a lot more of those. And so, yeah, I don't have that kind of content.
It's
You have to
interesting
choose your
how,
content.
like, the algorithms, they find exactly what you like and try to feed you more of that. Where it feeds into your addiction of using social media every time.
Oh, 100%.
So if you like to see horses, we'll show you a lot of horses. If you like dogs, we'll show you a lot of dogs. If you're a business person, you find a lot of things about business, education forms of... one thing that I notice is funny thing is sometimes... I don't know, I feel like the device listens to me, and depending on what it listens, is try to suggest some type of feeds for God.
100%.
So I don't know why, but sometimes if it's like about relationship, you find things about relationship just appearing on your Instagram. Don't be with this person if they're not meant for you. It's always those type of quotes that keeps appearing depending on the moments. Maybe they're hearing that conversation.
Yeah.
But I feel like those types of posts sometimes can affect the minds of other people. They can affect their decisions, whether to continue a relationship or to end it. They can affect their decision to be motivated or inspired to start a business. And I feel like psychology plays a huge role in getting people to do certain things in life. It's all about psychology. It's all in the mind. That's what I say. So despite that we're not that there yet to understand how our mind works, but we do understand the psychology part where it's being used in marketing, it's being used in different forms to make human beings do certain things.
This is a very important point, because we are at a time right now where AI is developing. And if you feel that you don't understand how your mind works, you are very vulnerable to being manipulated.
Exactly.
This is absolutely why I decided, to cut back on my time in the clinic, slightly, not much, just a little bit, and dedicate more time in building up my institute, where I'm developing online courses that people can take, like from the comfort of their own home, to learn about these things. Because if we don't learn what is our mind, how it functions, how it influences us, how to self-regulate, we are very vulnerable. Like AI right now is just, the developments are so fast. Our devices are listening to us. And I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say you're talking with your friend and you're saying, I'm thinking about getting a new iPad. Do you think I should get this or that? The minute you do that, then you open your phone, and then for weeks, the coming weeks, you're going to be getting different ads from different companies having that kind of thing. If that's not influencing your behavior, I don't know what is, because mere exposure, and then the ad or the company that's placing more ads, you're going to buy them, because we have a natural cognitive mechanism. The more I see something, the more I develop an attachment to it or start to like it and start to prefer it, right? So for sure, I think this is a very important time not to say anything like that anymore and to go out and do it. There's plenty of information. I know for me, I design my courses to fit people who are very busy, professional. I break it down for them using science and obviously scientific evidence. And I give them the evidence-based approaches, because obviously there's a lot of content out there. Everybody is, turning into coaches and everything, which is fine. But I know that a lot of my clients, they get very anxious around this. Like, should I follow this or whatever? And I say, you always need to be open-minded, but also base your efforts in evidence-based ways. What has been proven to work. not just taking on anything that you hear.
Can you give us a little bit of a teaser? Something that we can definitely use today.
Yes, sure. For what?
Anything that you think that a person should definitely do today.
You should definitely meditate. If you don't meditate, your mind is definitely wired towards paying attention to the senses or to processing input that comes through the senses, what you see, what you hear, right? And so when you learn to meditate, granted you find a good type of meditation, it will wire your brain to go inward in the inward focus. This inward focus means that you'll be getting to know yourself. You'll be able to self-reflect before making decisions. You will be much more knowledgeable about your own, how you want to navigate your life, right? So we need to have a strong relationship with our self, with our intuition. And this is something super easy to do today. There are countless ways to meditate. I personally like transcendental meditation because it has... So transcendental meditation has more than 600 studies that have been done on it. It's been studied in Harvard, Yale, UCLA, and all the reputable research centers around the world. These studies are published in peer-reviewed journals. So as a psychologist, for me, that's the golden standard.
How do you do it exactly?
So basically, you just research it, and it's very easy. It's a course. You find an instructor, and the instructor needs about 4 or 5 sessions with you. And then by the end of that, you're able to do it on your own for the rest of your life. I've been doing this for 24 years.
And how did that help?
You know, when you asked me at the beginning of the pod, where did you get the courage? I think definitely for me, TM is what really gives me the courage. Because any kind of day I have, I come and sit and meditate, and that just washes over me. And I come back to myself, right? Because we're social creatures, and obviously for me, I hear a lot of problems in my work. All day, I'm just sitting with other people's stress, pain, emotions.
Does it feel like you're gaining the negative energy? Or
For sure you do. Because obviously for me, the way I practice, I'm very empathetic. So I connect with people. I don't listen to them with with a distance or some kind of a block. No, because through hearing them, hearing their hearts, I can help. Right? If you just hear what someone's saying mentally, you don't resonate with them, you don't feel it with your heart, it doesn't help them. It doesn't heal them. It helps them. You might be able to give them some tips, but the healing happens when the person feels understood. And that's what I do in my work. So after all of that understanding of a lot of different stresses, I come home and the first thing I want to do is do my meditation, because it's going to help me go beyond all of those stories, come back to myself, quiet myself, and then feel fresh again.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, we talked a lot of things about the mental illness that is happening, but let's go back to the subject of Dubai and knowing about the city that is filled with opportunities. How do you think it's affecting positively the mental health of people here?
Positively? Wow. Yeah, that's a really good question. In so many ways, I don't know where to begin.
Let's start with you.
How does it impact me positively?
Yes.
Psychologically?
Yes.
I feel the sky is the limit here. Dubai serves as an example of what can be accomplished. When you live in Dubai, you feel like the sky is the limit, because everything has been, everything around you is wonder. Like you look at, it gives you wonder. When you look at, everything around us we see is just beautiful. It's top quality. It raises your standards. It shows you what is possible. And as human beings, and especially as me, when you see what the beautiful standard is, you never want to go back to older standards, right?
You feel like you lived in such a high standard,
yes,
which is here in Dubai.
Yeah.
And then you go somewhere else, you feel like, I'm thankful for what I have in Dubai. And I experience this myself. Whenever I go overseas, maybe to Europe or somewhere else, the hotels, they are much more different than the hotel standards that we have here. So a 5-star here would be like a 7-star there. And there is like 3-star, 4 stars is it's like a 2-star here. Pretty much. That's what I feel.
And I'll add one more thing, which links to what I said earlier about feeling safe as a woman here. Like when I go to the airport, for example, and like I'm going through like customs or whatever, I feel safe here. Like you don't understand. I'm not going to mention names, but I've been on a trip that I was looking forward to a very big country. I'm not going to mention names. I felt when I landed in that airport, it was like a cattle, like, you know, how they herd cattle into like rods or whatever. And the people working on the stamping the passport, the customs, they were like prison guards. I'm not exaggerating. I swear to God, I was so shocked. I said to myself, I will never be going back to that country again. Here, if, you know, you just feel welcomed, you feel safe, you feel it's organized, you feel people are nice, automatically, just by looking at, you know, how the governmental offices function.
They even smile at you back.
Yes. And have this very beautiful, you know, thing. And so this gives me a feeling of a mother at home. Do you know that saying, mother at home? You feel like you're safe because, you know, things are good. Like it's just...
You're out of the ways of the harm.
Yes.
Pretty much. So what would you say now that you've been here more than 16 years?
Yeah.
16 years being here. What would you say the key factors that has contributed to your success and growth here in Dubai?
Yes, alhamdulillah. I would say that I've been really blessed, you know, to be where I am today. And I think probably all the things that we talked about today really helped in me reaching where I am. Let me think about that a little bit more. Just the creativity, you know, the level of creativity here. Everything is inspiring. Being on this racetrack, this is the advantage of it. You know, you're watching a lot of development happening, and it's a personal choice how long you stay on this track. You know what I mean? And for me, I am someone who's driven by ambition. So this is why I like and I resonate with being here. So yeah. So just the amount of creativity, I would say.
Would you say you had a particularly rewarding moment with one of your clients? An experience that changed your life forever?
Yes, alhamdulillah. I have a lot of those moments with my clients. You see, I tend to do more concentrated, shorter term therapy, right? I'm not one of those therapists that you come in and see and like it takes forever because I'm Lebanese. We're impatient. We're born that way.
Yalla, come on.
Yalla.
Tell me.
Exactly. So I'm straight to the point. Let's get to it. We're going to work it out. And of course, in a very contained way that the person can process. But I tend to end therapy with my clients a lot. And so I have a lot of those moments where they tell me that, you know, Sarah, in a very short period of time, you really, you know, helped me be confident again. You've really freed me from OCD, from anxiety disorders. I feel I can build, you know, now the life that I want. I'm more ambitious, all of those things. So I have that all the time.
So there's no one, a specific one. You just like, it's broad
Recently,
and pretty much.
I mentioned one that just happened yesterday that was really heartwarming. It was someone who took my course, and he said that, you know, just to him, just taking the course in of itself, listening to the lessons, helped diffuse a lot of his tensions. And he's like, I took so many pages of notes from the course, and he's just filled with hope and excitement, feeling empowered that he can overcome the challenges.
And it feels amazing if you can help some sort of people with that, especially when it comes from your own business, from your own service. You feel like, wow, I can really help people with a lot of things that For you, it might feel like common sense, but for them, it's something totally new, and they can adapt it within their life. Now, if there's one change you can implement in the mental health around the world or in Dubai, what would that be?
That's a very good question, because that's exactly what I've just recently embarked on. So for me, coming from different backgrounds, I wasn't brainwashed into how therapy needs to be. Yeah. I didn't submit to the ideas that they teach you in university, how Freud used to do it and I don't know who used to do it. I came with a very pragmatic mind and a short-tempered mind, right, as Lebanese people. So I recently said that, therapy as it is today needs to be disrupted because it's too slow and people don't have time for that. Maybe they do in Switzerland or another place, but the clients that I see, they don't have time for months and months and years of therapy.
Here in Dubai?
Yeah, they don't have time for that. So this is why I created BCI. So I created BCI, which is an online institute, in order to do courses that you can take with your therapy. Yeah, so it's not like random courses. So these courses you can take with your therapy. And what would take me at least a month or two to teach the client in sessions, now they can learn over a weekend and they can come back to therapy and we can go from there.
And I think it's even more affordable.
It's super affordable because the course that, like I said, what you can learn in a month or two in therapy, you're learning it over the weekend with the price of one session.
Interesting.
So divide that up. And truly, this is my passion now, is developing these things. Now, I'm not going to talk about it now, but I'm writing a book which also fits into this dynamic of how can I help people make most of their therapy? Because a lot of people here, they don't know how to do that. They come in, they're completely vulnerable to the therapist. I'll give you an example. For example, they come in and they don't know how much they can unpack. You know what I mean? They're shy because people in their life, normally, socially, you don't tell people and burden them with your problems, right? But in therapy, don't come sit here and tell me, alhamdulillah, everything is fine.
Of course, you got to talk.
You got to so it's just a simple example, but this is like one of many things that I'm planning to change and help people make most of their therapy so that they can, because this is the core of why I do what I do. I'm allergic to suffering. I don't like suffering. I've always felt it when it is there. Since a child, I can feel other people suffering. And this is probably what drove me to taking on this career ultimately, because I need to resolve suffering in my space in order to feel good.
It's because you feel like you've suffered enough where you don't want people to suffer the same.
Yeah, and because if they're suffering, I can see it a mile away.
Now I got only 2 more questions for you. If you were to leave this world with only 3 tips that you can give as Sara, as a therapist, what would those 3 final tips or final key messages you can give to people to improve their mental health?
To improve their mental health? It's always tough for me to generalize because, my advice is always personalized depending on the person, who they are, where they come from, and where they are in their life journey, right? Because if you tell someone that, this is what you need to become a millionaire and they're still like somewhere else, it overburdens them, right? So my advice is never generic. I avoid that. But let me think of something for you. One thing that comes to mind is that nurturing your relationship with the Creator.
With the Creator?
With the Creator, with God, right? And obviously for certain people, it'll be different types of worship, right?
Yes.
But worshiping God for me is something that is so profoundly healing and empowering. It touches every aspect of your psychology. And for me, that's core. Find your path, whatever it's the traditional one or whatever it is, that's your choice. For me, it's Islam, alhamdulillah. And my worship is a huge foundation for me. Okay, so that's a priority. The other priority we already talked about, which is meditation. Meditate because your brain is wired to pay attention to the outside, wire it to pay attention to the inside. So you can make decisions based on your own decisions, your own choices, not what you're being told, especially with the AI developments happening. And then the other core thing I would say, fill your life with love. Start wherever. If you're on your own, get a pet. Love that pet. Connect with other people. Like, you can have love in your life no matter where you are and what you're doing, because love and feeling the emotions of love on a day-to-day basis just heals your body. It heals your mind, and we need it psychologically. We absolutely need to be loved and to love. So
we're made to be
these are the
social.
three. Yes,
We're social human beings. We're never made to be alone.
exactly.
Yeah, for sure. How can people connect more with you?
Well, people can connect with me on my Instagram.
Can you name it?
Yeah, it's just my name, Sarah El Nabulsi. Sarah with an H, El Nabulsi, ELNABULSI. And then obviously, if they want to, they can also look at my website, which will have a lot of information.
What's your website?
SaraElNabulsi.com.
Okay.
And there they can see, if about the courses, about coming into the clinic. They can even send me an email. I often respond to people on socials with just, for quick questions or quick advice. I'm more than happy to do that.
Well, it's absolutely a pleasure to have you here, Ms. Sarah. I think we learned a lot about what is it like being a therapist here in Dubai, what has happened. I believe people are more willing to contact you for any type of mental illness that they would like to learn about. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.